before you do, do you have do you have everybody situated? Because normally our guest is big. All right.
So should I have the channel open or whatever, or just leave it there, or?
Hey, there you are. I see ya. I see us. Yeah, we've been live.
Yeah, there you go.
Hi.
Hello. Oh, well, that's how it looks like.
Jay Holm.
Hi. Hello.
Oh, I gotta mute this. You have your sound on, Jay?
Yeah, I'll turn out the live channel because it's super delayed and stuff.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, whoa. Do I look that good?
Sweet like Danish. No, we don't say. Hey, Jay, how do you pronounce the Danish cracklings you were talking about?
Flæskesvær.
Oh Lord, I was actually going to attempt it. So, yeah, it's all cracklings, and they got a funny name for it over in Denmark.
Yeah, flæskesvær.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Yeah. Better bass, man. Everybody knows that.
There you
go. It's like B squared. Yeah. If you,
yeah,
he
exactly.
knows how to type it. I can never type it right, but he knows how to do it. Whereas a B and then a little, with the little.
Yeah.
Like,
for anybody who's had math or something in school, it makes sense. B squared.
Yeah, B squared. Better bass. Better bass. But yeah, tell us where are you from?
Well, I was born in Denmark. My mom, she's adopted from West Africa. My dad, he's part Danish and part English. And well, I stayed in Denmark most of my life until probably mid-20s or something. And then I moved to Sweden, and then I moved. After that, I moved to Norway, and I moved a little bit back and forth. But mainly Scandinavia.
So you like the cold weather, I guess.
Yeah, well, we've had a heat wave actually the last 45 days, so we've had up to 90, 95. So that's pretty decent. But we have cold weather. We've had probably 6 months of winter this year.
So where are you right now?
I'm in Norway.
Yeah. Oh, so where you're at? What time is it there?
It's 1:30.
In the morning?
Yep.
Oh my God. So you're doing your thing.
Yeah, I'm awake for this year interview.
But you're kind of a night owl anyway, huh? Don't you you do a little DJ on the side?
Yeah, I've been DJing since 91. Oops, I revealed my age.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. So you've seen how it, like the changes in how it's done. I mean, I'm gonna age myself here too, but it used to be all vinyl, scratching.
Yeah, I started with vinyl, and I still like playing with vinyl though, but the club don't pay me enough to basically bring my own turntable, so I'm like, oop, screw that.
Yeah, no, yeah, just do your thing. Do you do it? Do you like record all that stuff beforehand?
It's more live, and it's more fun for me, because that's basically where you have to have skills, not just press a button.
Right. Do you make as much as Marshmallow or what's that other guy's name?
Mouse? Danger Mouse? No, what's his name?
No, not that guy.
Dead Mouse?
What's his name? I'm so old.
I remember the cartoon series Danger Mouse.
Who's that guy that makes all that money? Like,
that's who it is. Isn't it? Dead Mouse.
Dead Mouse?
Yeah,
no,
I told you it was.
That's
That's the biggest DJ. Probably. Yeah, it's got to be.
All right.
Dead Mouse, he's pretty famous. He makes quite a lot of money.
Yeah, not Danger Mouse.
I have never heard of Dead Mouse. How popular can he be?
DJ Snake or something?
Not that I'm in the club all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe you were thinking about these guys, Daft Punk or something. They're DJs as well.
Somebody said.
No.
Somebody said
he was married to like a rock star, like a.
Somebody said Skrillex.
Yeah, Skrillex. That's what I'm thinking about.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank
you. Well, he makes a lot of money as well. You know, I'm just a small guy in the game. Never really took it to that level. I'm not saying that I don't have skills, but today it doesn't really matter if you have skills or not. It's more about connections.
Yeah, you just show up with an iPod and plug it in. You good? That's all you got to do. Ain't no, there's no more. There's no more turntables. There's no more turntables. Yeah.
Hit the button.
Yeah. You got a playlist. Screw it up. I mean, cue it up.
Yeah, exactly. They probably got a playlist they ripped off of some other DJ.
Oh, yeah. Just add them off of YouTube.
That's what I would do. I would just like rip it, plug it in, hit the play button.
Yeah, walk
and
away.
Like dance along with it.
Put up a
hands in the air like that.
Put up a cardboard cutout and just walk away.
Yeah, sure. So
hey, tell the audio scene.
Oh, shots fired! Like already.
Bang bang.
Already. Bang, bang, bang. Just copy somebody's playlist, download, insert, repeat, hit the play button.
Wait for the boat to show up.
Yikes. Well, I mean, that's why everybody loves B2, because there's not none of that going on, or not a lot of it. But
yes,
for sure. Tell us how you got started.
What's your background? Where'd you come from? You know, I mean, not where'd you come from. You know what I mean? Where the business started.
Me and my partner, basically, we met back in '95 or something. I was about to buy some audio gear, so I went into this here store in Denmark. They basically were the only retailers of Phoenix Gold, and Rockford Fosgate back then. So they were having like a big sale, and I went in there, and I was supposedly going to pick up some stuff like an amp or something, because I probably saved a lot of money to basically buy this gear, because car audio in Europe is pretty costly. So I went in there. They had this huge sale, and I was asking the guy in there who was behind the counter, was asking him not a hard question, but he's like, by the way, why did you ask the guy who's standing behind you in the line? I was like, okay.
That shit was so hard it froze the computer.
So basically, I spoke with him, and this guy, he didn't really look like any car audio guy or whatever it was, but he had a lot of skills, and he knew a lot of stuff that most people wouldn't even have known back then in the mid-90s. And well, since mid-90s, me and him, we became friends, and I had some skills that he might not have had, and well, we were both into music. His background was more like high-end home audio, and I was more or less affected by my stepdad, because he was like, I'm not saying he was an audio guru, but he was very much affiliated with T-line speakers and tube amps and such that you were using for home audio. And I didn't really like his music because he was more into classical, so I was like trying to see if I could play louder than him, and it was kind of hard doing that with well, I'm not saying my speakers were crappy, but it wasn't something like he had, because trying to fight against T-line speakers with a full horn is kind of hard when you got like 2 8-inches.
Yeah, for sure. T-lines before they were cool and had a Facebook forum.
Exactly. So I got bred basically with audio. It was always around me, but for starting the company, it was basically because me and my partner, we met back in the mid-90s. And I started working for an audio company. I worked a little bit as an installer in that store. But I started working for a company called Blaupunkt, which was owned by Bosch back then.
I remember.
Yeah.
So I worked there for more or less 5 years, and I could say that I felt the last couple of years when I was there in Blaupunkt, the company took a change, and already by then I started looking into what could we do making the audio scene different. So while I was in Blaupunkt, I already had some ideas that maybe I could start my own or move on.
Blaupunkt was like crazy high end back back in the day.
Back in the day, it wasn't bad actually. It was very decent.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So you had some ideas of your own. You left Blaupunkt and what?
Yeah, basically, well, actually, back in 2007, me and my partner, we were invited to World Finals in the States. So we took our little Blaupunkt car, which was actually a Terra. So it was probably the first Terra ever in the States that we built. That went to compete in the U.S. Finals.
Wait, how did you?
You shipped it. You shipped it over in a container.
We shipped it by sea.
Slow boat.
Just to make World Finals.
It was very slow. It probably took around about 40 days or something.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Were y'all on the same boat?
No, we caught a flight though.
They towed a little dinghy behind them.
They had y'all working in the galley, huh?
The only thing that really sucked was that the car got stuck in customs because of some accident that happened in the port or whatever it was. So they couldn't get our container out. So the car sat in customs for 3 months or something.
Oh my gosh!
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, how'd you plan for that to make it to finals by 3 months? You know.
Yeah.
You shipped it over just that early.
Well, the thing was, we were actually there a couple of days prior, and we were supposed to pick up the car in the box. So we were waiting there, and we're like, so is the car going to be released soon? Yeah, you know, we got a lot of containers here that we need to empty first, but sure, we'll get to it. So they were just taking us around for probably 3 days. And then we just said, well, what are we going to do? We just have to head down to finals because we're not going to stay here in New York all the time. So we head down to finals without any car, and that was kind of bad. Kind of sucked, actually.
Where was finals then?
Huntsville, I believe. Yeah.
Dang, we're bringing it back full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go.
So you didn't get to get the Blaupunkt car, the Blaupunkt Terra to finals?
No, it was stuck in customs in
Stuck in customs, yep.
Yeah, so it was stuck there for 3 months. So we got it back afterwards, and they really did a job on taking it apart, though.
Oh, they have to take it all apart before they can release it?
Yeah, but they were scanning each container there, so
man.
So once we got it back, we're like, okay, what happened here? It wasn't easy for them to basically take stuff apart because it was a wall and it was built with steel and such, but they really tried picking stuff apart.
That's crazy.
Sneaking that good stuff in.
Yeah, exactly.
What was in it?
It was a Super Street 1 to 2, so we had 2 18s of Blaupunkt. They made a series called VPWs, and we had 4 or 5Ks in there.
Would it have dominated?
It would have been pretty interesting because back then we did 65, which was in 2007. And that was 65 easy. So we had some tricks up our sleeve that we're supposed to pull out at finals, but that didn't really happen. So
damn Euros.
Exactly.
Always cheating.
Beating those Astros, man.
That's all we got. Astros and CRXs. That's all we got.
Yeah, CRXs.
Yeah, that's why you lowered the frequency cap.
It still didn't work, did it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pandas and Terras still killing them.
Yeah, just dropped a couple dBs. Still had them covered.
Retune, make more work.
Yeah. I'll tell you what though. I don't give Euros a lot of shit, but because they put in some work. I mean, they do have some awesome, quote unquote awesome / crappy cars to start with. You know, everything's square and bare, but they are bananas over there. The builds that I see and the work that they put in, crazy, dude, crazy.
Yeah.
But
the thing is, we don't have space, and that's the problem. So we're like, okay, we can't fit that much gear, so let's try to look at what could be efficient and have a small confined space, and well, then you look for whatever car is the best possible, and there you go. But you have Yugos in the States, right? You could use that one.
Yeah, sure.
What car?
Ugly car, though.
What car?
Yugos.
Oh, Yugos.
Dude, I have this handicap that like I must. imperative that I be able to daily drive my SPL car or my competition car or whatever it is. So I will never be able to like go bananas with a Yugo or order a stinking
concrete
Panda or whatever it is.
Can't put concrete.
I mean? Our Terra wasn't a trailer queen, so I've driven that. You know, it wasn't fun doing like 45 miles in that one there with a super stiff suspension, basically equal no suspension at all. But sure, we've driven it. It wasn't something I would recommend, but it does drive.
I have way more respect. Not that I don't respect the guys doing huge numbers, but I have so much respect for the guys that put in the miles and put in the numbers, like Robert Jagacki, you know, Joe Price. He says his van drives. I've never seen him drive.
He used to drive it. He used to drive it a lot.
Anyway, anybody that drives their competition car to finals, bonus points. Bonus points.
It should be bonus points.
For sure. Don't they have a street racing class where you have to like drive 100 miles and then drive 100 miles back and then race? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah. Mecca's got that boom zoom.
It would be possible in Denmark because 100 miles is probably traveling the entire country.
Right. You gotta go through like, you need a passport.
Run out of road.
So anyway, you guys got skunked out of finals because of customs, and where'd you pick up from there?
Well, basically, we went back home, and I wasn't too popular in the office because we got a huge bill for shipping the gear back and forth, and we didn't even attend finals. So that was kind of interesting. I was like,
you should have just sold it.
Yeah, just left it here.
I should have actually. I could have made money back then, probably.
For real.
Yeah. No, so that was probably back in 2007. Yeah, 2007. Yeah. We came back there, and already by then, me and my partner, we were looking into, well, other stuff that we could have brought to the market. So we actually started planning our own company already back in 2006, but we didn't really launch it till late 2007, early 2008. So those 2 years we actually took to figure out designs and figure out who we should go with for suppliers and build houses and such. So we spent almost 2 years before launching the company. And that's also why when we came out, you know, it wasn't that common using white subs or white amps and such.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a very hard thing to do back then, because when we wanted to do the white subs, most of the build houses were like, oh, it's so hard to do. It's easier, just do black. And we're like, no, we want white. And it's like, oh, then you need to order this quantity. And so, yeah, sure, we'll order the quantity. You know, some of the early subs, these guys, they didn't really know how to do any of this high gloss paint, so they did it, and they forgot to basically do a little bit of etching on the baskets or something to have the glue adhere sufficiently. So some of the surrounds weren't as tight as they should have been. So that means that me and my partner had to do a lot of glue jobs prior to sending out stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, people live and learn though, but that was in the old days when they didn't really do much high gloss finished on the baskets. It was just like black.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Nobody cared what the basket looked like back then.
Not then.
Nothing. Even the amps, nothing was aesthetic. It was just. No. Does it do power? You know, but I mean, that changed the game. You know.
Yeah. No, we tried. That's also why we spent 2 years prior to launching the company figuring out, okay, what should our products look like? What should we do? And we had a lot of samples that we tested thoroughly and said, okay, this year needs to be modified. This year we need to do like this. So finally, when we came onto the market, we felt that we had something unique, which we probably had for a little while. And then when something seems to be okay or popular, well, people in some certain areas, they say that, hey, let's imitate or duplicate. It's kind of hard basically doing a copyright on a collar anyway, so it is what it is.
What were your first products that you dropped? Like, did you just drop a whole line on us or whatever? Because I don't remember like the very beginning of YouTube.
When we launched the company, we launched a wire, we had RCA, we had a mono, and we had a 4-channel amp. and we had two line of subs. One was more like an SQ type of subs, and the other was more like a competition SPL, SQL type of sub, something to compete against the JLW7 back then.
That sounds like a solid lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, considering it was a brand new company,
Right.
we took quite a lot of time to basically bring this to the market. We also had some Deadner back then, so it was a lot of personal money we just funded into this and saying, okay, let's try to launch this as good as possible.
Yeah, it sounds like you thought about what you would want and then just brought up all that stuff to market, huh?
Exactly. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
it didn't sell that well because we had something called the financial crisis in 2008.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
And that really hurt hard here in Europe because we didn't have any USD here.
Because the lineup that you say you drop, like that's probably what I would do. You know, like wire, Deadner, one SQ sub, one SPL sub, a mono, 4-channel. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was basically trying to cover everything.
Skip, when was the first time you heard of or?
Uh-oh.
Everybody got me?
What? Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you now. I saw it was a slight
I saw that. It was weird.
Connection. I think.
When was the first time you heard of it?
I think the first one I seen, it might have been, was it 2012 maybe? I know it's way past when y'all started, but I think it was Alan Hall. He had, I think he had the M1U, or one of the, one of the two of the big ones. You know, in his little Volkswagen Fox build. And then, man, it just exploded after that. That's why I wanted to ask too. Like, I don't know if we're getting ahead, but did you specifically know you were going to make those 0.5 and 0.1 for Usaki, or that just happened? I mean, honestly.
There's a story behind this here.
Right here.
There's a story.
Actually, this is kind of funny though, because back in 2008 we had already a prototype of what we would call the 0.5. We didn't really push it because there wasn't really any interest in it. We had the prototype and we were like, well, would anyone want this kind of amp? Would they need that amount of power, or would they need to take that much abuse? So being that new of a company, we didn't really have the funds to go in and say, okay, well, we need to buy this and that many. We needed to basically be able to sell them. And in Denmark back then, people weren't really that interested in that much power. Probably they were, but they didn't want to pay for it. And I think 2 years after or something, everybody was on like, oh, this is the RDD5, it's so amazing, it's so powerful, it's so this, it's so that. And Jack, who was with us back then, no more comments about him though. He spoke with us and he got in touch with Taylor or T-Fade about an amp, and we're like, okay, let's try to send over the prototype and he can do a test versus the D5. And he did a test and it came out pretty well, pretty decent. And that was off
the prototype was
prototype board.
It was neck and neck with what a lot of people, including myself, consider one of the greatest competition amps ever.
Pay to play amp.
It's for sure. It stayed right there, and it actually beat it by a tenth or two on the top end. But margin of error type thing.
That was the prototype.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't as good as the production though.
Yeah, no, it's not as strong as the production, because trust me, I've had both. So yeah, the Zero, man, that thing came.
That exploded.
It came and saw and whipped everybody's ass.
Yeah, and it looked good.
It was beautiful, amp. One of my favorite pictures in my photo bucket. Which photo bucket, if you're listening, you killed the internet. Die, I hate you. One of my favorite pictures on photo bucket is my 05 and the CRX with all the dual inputs and the Deadner and stuff. But yeah, it was a gorgeous amp.
Yeah,
the
People
white.
love good scores with them.
Yeah. So why the red now? Why the red?
Yeah, well, the thing is, if you look into the color of the Danish flag, it's well, let me see. Here you go.
There it
It's
is.
red and white. That's also why we wanted to do a little bit of the white before, because it pays homage to the flag.
Gotcha.
Sure.
So
Gotcha.
we said, okay, let's try to switch up the game a little bit. Let's try to do some red in there just to see that, hey, because now everybody was doing, not everybody, but quite a few brands were getting into the white.
Right.
We were a little bit reluctant on doing the red because usually a lot of people, they were either thinking about Orion for the red, or they were thinking about Sony Explode. I was like, well, okay, well, we can try it at least.
You know what? That's funny because I've seen your red amps, obviously, and I love the way they look.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Honestly, it has never once crossed my mind to make the connection between the Orions, especially the Explode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought of the HCCA when I seen it one time, but
Did you?
yours is like is it anodized? Is that what the case
Yeah,
is?
yeah.
And then it's like etched out too. It's not like a screen print or whatever it is. It's
Yeah,
etched.
it's different.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I mean, like nobody thinks of that
Once
for
people
the outside,
see the amp, actually, they go like, "Oh, this here is not the same." I'm like, "No, it's not." But once you see it on a picture, you go like, "Yeah, same, but different."
Yeah. Well, B2's about that, dude. I mean, ever since my first dealings with him, everything is like, it's just the little touches and going a little bit above and beyond, and a little bit better this, a little bit better bass, a little bit better, whatever you have to do. So my experience,
it comes from us being guys that used to be in the lane. We try to basically say that every product that we make, well, it reflects a little bit upon ourselves, and that's also why we say that, okay, let's try to do this. Is it something we could do, and can we improve on it? Can we do it better? Because we have been competing. We're not just a CEO sitting behind a desk and trying to count money. Because there's basically not really much money in this year industry anymore, at least not for us, because we just try to basically build the company, but we try to look at each product as a part of ourselves and to extend ourselves into the product.
Speaking of being in the lanes, I share this story every chance I get. There used to be a class called Street Max in DB Drag.
Yeah.
Now, I don't compete in DB Drag. I have once or twice, and I don't know how everybody watching is probably familiar with DB Drag, but us down here in the South, we don't really know. Anyway, Street Max is like one battery. That's all you get. One battery in a stock location, and then everything else goes. Like whatever the hell you want.
Whatever you can run off that battery.
And y'all did some bananas number in Street Max, didn't you? One battery now. Keep in mind, one battery in the stock location. And what'd y'all do?
It had 4 amps, and it did, I think it was 166.2.
Legal.
Subs.
Legal.
That's silly.
66.
On one battery only.
One battery and a better battery.
Yeah, exactly. It was a
Better
better
battery.
and everything in front of the B pillar had to be stock. So you couldn't really cheat or do anything there. Everything in front of the B pillar had to be stock.
Crazy, dude. That is like.
And the car was a daily driver.
Crazy. What kind of car was it? I forget.
That was actually a Marbella, and it was a daily driver. Believe me, the guys from Italy, they went to the finals in, I think it was in Germany, and they drove that car all the way back to Italy in 2 days, which was like 1,000 miles or something.
Jeez.
I'm like, I would never drive 1,000 miles in a car with a wall that was that small.
My God. Just wreck shop, and then drive it back. Well, with one battery, I mean, you really ain't got all that much to worry about.
Yeah.
No, it was the amps and the box that basically had the weight into it there.
Yeah.
Was just being able to fit all that stuff in there.
Anybody watching now that doesn't have reference, this was like ferrite days. This was pre Neo, all the things. This was ferrite days. One single group, group 31, right? It had to be like 800 cubic inches or less.
Yeah, it was 800 cubic inches back then.
Yeah. Y'all don't still make that battery though, do you?
No.
When I say better battery, they used to have their own battery.
Uh-huh.
It was 800 cubic
Way
inches.
back in
competition.
2008, 2009.
I'm telling you, he was badass.
That's
Yeah,
crazy. That's a crazy class to think of, man. Like,
Dude,
Yeah, it was
I
very
wish they
fun.
still had it. It's not
That's-
there anymore,
that's
but
fun.
that was the most awesome class ever.
I mean, like a CRX would be
Wayne Harris, if you're watching this, bring it back. Bring it
yeah.
back.
And it had to be stock. It had to be stock location. So like a CRX is screwed. It can only fit a 51. You know, a Group
I
51.
think you could. Well, DV Drag, you know they're
One
crazy.
battery,
You can put
one
any
battery.
size battery you want anywhere.
Oh, okay. Under the hood. Yeah.
As long as it was
Just replace
stock.
the motor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it ran.
You know them boys always putting 31s under.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
CRXs.
Move the intake and just throw it right there.
Yeah, screw it.
Run a filter off the throttle body.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing is, we didn't get the CRXs here in Europe.
Right.
We have them, but we have a European version, which basically don't do us any justice because the European version has back seats.
Back seats, and it's
Oh.
funny because we all want the back seats so we can play in another class, and y'all don't want the back seats. Retarded. Hey, so if you have anybody that has back seats, let me know because I want the back seat for when
Oh,
I
there
get
you go.
another CRX.
What?
I can't get
I
away
know
from those
some.
things. I can't get away from them. Euros
No,
get
they're
all the
nice.
fun shit.
Dude, they do.
Euros get all the best
They
stuff.
got, like-
man, I'm telling you.
They just got to pay high gas. Yeah.
That's fine.
And
That's
our
fine.
cars are very costly.
Right. Yeah.
And car audio is very costly.
I hear that. I mean, I know we always think we got expensive stuff down here, you know. And honestly, full disclosure, the first time I heard about B2, I think was from Pounds to Home. And he
Right.
was running. I think he was like the first guy running it down here.
Yeah, probably
or-
in the league. Sure.
Yeah, he was doing big things, and I was talking to him, and I looked y'all stuff up, and I was like, oh my god, I will never be able to afford this. That's amazing, blah blah blah. And I think it was y'all's biggest amp at the time was the M1U. Was it?
M1S?
M1.
S or just
Or
M1?
just the
M1.
M1?
Yeah,
You're right,
yeah.
the shark or
M1.
whatever. I remember the shark imagery.
Yeah, the M1.
Yeah. And I was like, I think he had 2 of them, but I was like, oh my god, I want 7 of those. You know what I mean? I was like, well, I'll never be able to afford them. But, you know, at the time I thought it was expensive. But if you start pricing out power, like solid power, at the time to get that much power, you guys aren't any more expensive than anybody else. You know,
Mhm.
so
No, but if you're
obviously
looking back,
I eventually wound up with like a ton of B2 power. I must have
if you look back
had
in
like
2010, 2011, there weren't that many big amps on the market that did that type of power. But when people were doing the comparison, they were like, well, I could just get 2 5Ks from this and that brand. I'm like, sure. But try to do the same amp that was a 10K back then. There weren't that many companies doing them. And of course, since there aren't that many companies doing them, it's harder to basically produce because you need to get special components for everything. You need to basically develop stuff instead of just, well, I'm not saying carbon copy something, but today it's a lot easier to get something started.
Yeah.
You might not be able to get something unique started, but it was a lot harder back then.
Yeah. And now we're trying to stay ahead of the game because it wasn't just copying something and slapping a white sink on it.
No.
But the
But
subs,
nowadays our prices are not bad. We have US prices, and if you compare to any other brand that is on par or whatever people might say, but any other decent brand, prices are on points. Of course, we will never be able to beat prices of Power Acoustics and such, but we're not even in that game. Power Acoustic, they have their customers and they're killing it. But we don't offer $5,000 watt amps for $199.
You know what's a shame is that is a humongous part of the car audio market. Like,
oh yeah,
the guys that we're talking to right now, like, what are we, the 1% of the 1%? Crazy. You know what I mean? But they all know JL Audio and they all know Alpine, Rockford. They all started where you started. You know, you just need another 20 years or so, Jay.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be all gray haired and stuff, and
Right.
I'll go like, oh, I'm finally able to get a paycheck.
They'll talk about the 05 like they do the Punch 45 back in the day.
Yeah. I don't have a Punch 45, but I have a 250. I have a 500.2.
Oh, you ain't old school.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
ain't old school if you don't have a 45 or 150.
Nah, it was too costly back then. So
What is the just this like on a tangent? What is like I'm just gonna throw a number out there. Like say an amp is $1,000 here in the U.S. What is it in Europe?
more or less times
comparably.
2.
Really?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Holy
Because-
crap!
Yeah, we have usually we have 20 to 25% VAT on top of it, and then for almost any shop to be able to touch it, they need a markup of at least 80% or something. So
Jeez.
we're not really making more money off of the product selling it here in Europe. The ones who are making money is the dealers, and I'm not gonna sit here and call out my dealers, but at times you go like, this here kind of sucks. You know, you have a product failure, and of course we will cover it. But when you're making $5 selling this here product, and the dealer is making like $70, and he's like, hey man, you need to cover this product because you know there is somewhat of a dubious product flow on it, where you can just go like, yeah, sure, burnt coils, yeah, that seems like a product failure.
Dude, when we had Jacob on, I asked him, I was like, how in the crap can you ever warranty a sub? Because it's always user error. I mean, unless like the adhesive pops up like you were talking about earlier, but like it's always some jackleg burned it up. Like what, you know, or ripped this around or whatever. I don't understand how subs ever get warranted. Honestly, I don't get it.
They didn't break it
Actually,
in.
just 2 days ago, I was from one of my dealers. They sent me a picture of a super tweeter, and they took out the voice coil, and the entire winding on the coil was just gone. It was just etched. You could basically see where it's just had a spark there. And they were telling me, well, is this your warranty or not? And I'm like, to be able to basically burn off the voice coil on a super tweeter, I believe you've fed it more than enough power.
Yeah, I honestly, if you can burn up a super tweeter, like you must be deaf, because by the time you get enough power on a super tweeter to burn that thing up, like I'm running for the hills.
Exactly.
Jay, somebody in the troll box here wants to know the difference. Will Metzia wants to know the difference between a Raven and an NS2. Can you comment on that one? Do you know enough about the NS2?
Sure. Me and Jacob, I'm not sure if people actually know, but me and Jacob, we're good friends. We both do our thing in the industry, so and that's actually how it should be. More of the car audio owners should consider this a business to grow instead of a business to tear down. So
for sure.
Sure, I know what Jacob is doing. Not, of course, not down to each specific component and such, but the NS2 is a strong app. Difference in components. Well, the Raven is its own. We started with basically 0. And we took it from there because we wanted to do quad inputs. Again, this is because of our experience in the lane. We said, well, if you're basically going to pull that much amount of current to make that amount of power, you need more power inputs. So that's basically where we started. We said this here needs to be a quad-powered amp that is strappable. Otherwise, well, it's kind of hard to do much to an amp. An amplifier has an input section, it has OP amps, so basically give it more power. It has an output section, filters and such. So basically, I'm not going to say that each amp is the same, but the concept of an amplifier is the same.
Sure.
Of any amp on the market, it does. It's power in, power out. But the amps, NS2 and the Raven, they are similar amps. I would say the Raven is a larger amp in terms of physical size. In terms of power, I'm not going to say more or not, because that depends on whatever application you have the amp in. I know the NS2 will do great numbers. I know the Raven will do great numbers. So I would say that's for anyone who basically has each amp, put it in a similar setup and test all those similar setups and figure it out.
Yeah. They're both beasts, monsters in their own right.
And there's still going to be some knucklehead putting dual inputs into those 4 ones, so he has 1 million inputs coming out. Yeah, that guy right there. That thing.
I would be all over that.
No problem with dual inputs. I have more problems with basically people linking cable from each input to the other so they can save using all the wire.
Just put one on each end.
Anyone out there doing that, you don't really have to do that.
I've seen it.
I've done it.
People asking me, do I really need to use all the inputs? I'm like, well,
it'll turn on. It'll turn on.
Yeah, you don't have to.
It'll produce bass.
Your car will drive in 2 cylinders as well.
It'll be bass.
There it is.
Just will be better bass. You know what I'm saying?
It will be bass. Exactly.
It won't be squared.
Yeah.
No, it won't be squared. It'll be like the square root.
Yeah. I don't know math.
Skip doesn't know math.
Square signal is probably good for whatever you want to destroy. That's great. Or if you're feeling cold, you can get some added heat on the square signals.
So look, changing gears from the most gigantic, retarded amp I've ever seen in my life, it seems like lately you have been doubling down on the SQ side, like touching a brother's heart. Because I think people know by now that I also dabble in SQ, and
no way.
No, not so much. But I love it.
I've seen Taylor Fade doing SQ.
I pretend.
Yeah.
I'm not really an SQ guy, but I play one on Facebook. So, but man, you've been doubling down on this SQ thing. No kidding. What's that about?
The thing is, when we actually set out doing our own brand, me and my partner, we came from that SQ background because we were never about SPL. We started with our brand as something that should always sound good. So we started with the sound, and we said that if we mainly said that, okay, let's try to use this type of woofer, that type of coil to increase efficiency. Because we were always about efficiency. That's from our standpoint, because we don't have a lot of space in our cars in Europe. We don't have the batteries that we could put in there. We might only be able to fit 1 or 2 batteries and such. So we're always about efficiency, and efficiency comes both from Pro Audio and SQ. And we always said that we need something that sounds good. We can't make a woofer that basically is, well, something that sounds crap. So we wanted to make something that already sounded great, but that was dimensioned to take a beating. What we didn't know was that a beating in Europe is not the same as a beating in the States. So when we came out with our XC subs,
which one's worse?
The States.
Shout out to my American brothers. Keep beating them. Keep beating them.
We give them heck.
Yeah, because we came out with a woofer called the XC, which was a derivative of the Team RF, great sub. And we set this year as a 3,000 watt sub. And it could handle it all day, but the problem is in the States, it was more considered like let's try a 6 or 7K on this year sub because it looks like it can handle it. We're like, no. But people looked at it and they say like it looks like an SPL sub because a lot of our gear looked like it was for SPL because it had massive power inputs, it produced great power and such. So a lot of people in the States never actually used it for SQ. Whereas in Europe, we started more in the SQ market and then we grew it into SPL because it was easier for us to get recognition in SPL faster than in SQ. Right. Because SQ, for people that don't know SQ, sometimes getting a right score depends on basically how the judge feels that day. It might not be correct what I'm saying for some people, but SQ is hard. It's a very much personal opinion. Whereas SPL,
SQ is
well,
hard.
there's a meter,
Hard
and
people.
the meter don't lie.
High society is what they are.
Hey man,
The
come on now.
elitist. The elitists.
Stop it.
Nah, I like good
Well,
audio,
what?
but I
know
like
what
a mix
the
of
thing
both.
is? You can get SPL across in a video. You can't get SQ across in a video. You can get
It's hard.
the only thing you can really relay in pictures or video with SQ, and I hate that these two are linked or associated, but install.
Install.
You see a beautiful install, you're like, oh, that's got to sound fantastic. But there's no reason SPL installs can't be beautiful too, other than the fact that we're changing them out all the time or whatever. But you can't really get SQ across in pictures or videos or whatever. So growing an SQ brand is tough. But you're doing your thing right now. I got to tell you, you got a couple of flagship vehicles out there, really spreading the gospel.
And Steve Mead's got some.
What?
Steve Mead's got some B2s.
Yeah.
With the case. He's got a case. He's got like 4 sets, dude. You better watch the YouTubes.
Oh, I don't watch the YouTube.
First set in the States.
Wait, which Steve Mead we talking about?
Yeah, the Steve Mead.
Yep. SMD Steve Mead?
There's only one.
One of them's
loud. With an E.
One of them is loud. One of them has world championships. One of them used to run B2.
Steve Mead's probably got some championships. I bet you he does.
Steve SMD Mead ain't got no damn championships.
He's got B2 audio SQ components in a case, though.
All right, well, he might have some SQ bullshit, but he ain't got no championships like Steve, not SMD Mead. Shout out to my boy Steve Mead. Don't let him hold you down, brother.
There's only one. No, but those looked amazing, and they come in a case, so you can't go wrong.
No, I want some immediately.
Now we took around about a year to get those right. We had a 3-way kit prior to that, which was basically was a compromise because we needed to basically get a system out there. We had the components already, but we didn't really have the flight case and such. So we said, okay, well, now we know there is a market for the 3-way. So we said, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and get the flight cases done and revise it a little bit so it has more eye candy to it.
Yeah. No, it's like beautiful. It comes across beautifully. I can't wait to hear them. And not for nothing, but I messaged Jeffrey and told him if he doesn't put those damn things in his car immediately, I'm gonna whoop him next time I see him. So
he's got some amps in there though.
Yeah, he does. He's got the revs.
Yeah,
man. Holy
revs and
Duo, honestly, one of my favorite of all time. I need, when we get off this chat, I need to holla at you. I need a Duo. But yeah, Jeffrey, I heard his car at Aggie Land. And I can't wait to hear it after he puts the refs in. Jeffrey, if you're listening, put the refs in. Wait, what's the
you got new subs as well.
Yeah. He sent me some excursion videos of those things, and he's like, I will never go back to Ported again.
More control on that seal box.
There's a track on the Aggieland disc from last year, just this past year, that goes to 17, and he's like, just, the subs are just wagga 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 wagga. It was awesome. But
excursion.
I'm telling you, Insomnia.
Yeah,
that guy's written a couple of checks to you too, huh?
Well, I hope so.
PayPal transfers.
Yeah, the Insomnia project is something that's going to be very interesting. His Escalade there.
Oh my God!
It was supposed to be done here for a K-Fest in Dallas, which is coming up very soon. But such a build of magnitude that he's doing there, it's impossible to basically figure out when it will be done. So it's not going to be at the K-Fest, unfortunately, in Dallas, but it will be whenever it's ready to be revealed. It will be there. He's going to be putting in two 33-inch subs, and I'm like, holy. It's a lot of subs, a lot of cone area in a car that basically is supposedly an SQ demo type build.
Dude, Kendrick is a beast. That guy is a monster. And
It is.
he's a wow man. I love him. I love him. If anybody doesn't know who I'm talking
That's what
about,
people
Kendrick
haven't really
Rogers.
done before.
Yeah, Kendrick Rogers. Find him on Facebook. Hashtag Insomnia. Hashtag B2 all the things. The guy's a crazy person, getting all his work done in mobile toys down there in College Station. And it's
Awesome.
not only is it crazy, it is beautiful. The guy has more money in wire than I do in any of the vehicles I've ever owned in my life. Crazy. But yeah, I heard it last year when he had some other stuff in there. But yeah, I was disappointed it wasn't ready for Aggieland this year.
Yeah.
So anyway, what do you got coming down the pipe, man? What's new? What's happening? Tell me about your life.
Yeah, well, life. Hey, I'm a dad now. I'm 2 years old.
What?
Hey.
Get out of here!
Same thing.
Yeah, I got a
What?
2-year-old son.
Yeah.
Gotta meet him.
No.
That's great.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
that's been. How is that?
That's when they get fun, dude. That's when they get fun.
Seriously, they start to get fun at
That's
2.
what-
3
oh, yeah.
dads.
Mine's-
I knew I
yeah.
liked you guys for some reason.
Mine's 2.5 right now.
He's
So, yeah.
fun. He just started in kindergarten yesterday, so that was very entertaining.
Wow.
Kindergarten?
Yeah, they
What
start
the
them
hell are you
early.
talking
Huh?
about, weirdo?
They start them early in Europe, huh?
What?
So,
that
nah,
about?
but he's a lot of fun though. He because his mom is Thai, so we speak 3 languages with him because I speak Danish, and mother speaks Thai, and his grandmother speaks English to him, and now he's going to start learning Norwegian in school or kindergarten.
Oh, what?
So it's like 4 languages he's going to get at the same time.
What is Widgeon?
Widgeon?
Norwegian.
Oh,
Oh,
Norwegian.
Norwegian. How many languages do you speak? I meant to ask you that.
I-
Like how get around in. Like I don't mean like, Rhodes Scholar and
No, I probably do 6, but 3 of them are very similar because that's Norwegian, Swedish, and Danish. Although they're similar, it's not the same language. But I speak them fluently. That's the difference.
No, that is a difference. That is
I'm probably like 0.75 of
yes.
the best I got.
I mean,
Well, if
I'm
rough. It gets rough.
0.25, then I'm good.
Jay speaks better English than you
Yeah,
clown.
obviously, yeah. He doesn't mess up the 2-0.
Right.
I don't know what I'm saying right now.
You do fuck up that 2-2 shit.
All the time.
What is that?
I mean,
2-2
you
called?
only know TOO. What is
yeah.
that?
I
Actually,
don't
you
know.
get better.
Okay, 2-2. Okay, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
TO and TOO. He doesn't
I think
know
about-
how to use.
I have to
those
think about it. I'm like, am I going there or is it too excessive? I have to think about it. I don't mess up the number 2 though.
Basically,
But you know what?
I'll teach you something then.
Please.
If it's something that is too much,
It's
that means that you have to have 2 O's.
2 O's. Yeah.
Hey yo.
But if it's something you want to give it to, you don't want to give them too much. So this is just like 1 O.
1-0 to them.
Yeah,
Look at that non-English speaker. School and skip 01.
I honestly wanted to start the show with us not knowing you might not know English and you just go off on some other language and be like,
I can flip
Right?
it to Danish.
And we could pretend like we
Yeah,
understood.
like-
We're just not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You gotta turn the
I-
captions off or something. Mess with people in the video.
Exactly.
Tommy K is in the chat. I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah.
you guys realize that
Yeah.
the legendary Tommy K90 in the chat.
Oh,
Oh
hey.
my god.
He finally got live when he had B2.
Marzik.
Yeah, some kind of weird.
I don't know how to say his damn name.
K9.
either.
I asked him, and he was pretty good at telling me, but I wasn't that good at actually repeating it.
No, it's Tommy K forever.
Dude, he
Exactly.
he put some work in on those zeros. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
He sure did.
Yeah.
He did.
A lot of people did. It's not
Yeah.
very often you can basically come with some 05s and strap and more or less get like 16, 17K out of a 2 amps that are rated at 2K.
Yeah.
Right.
Each.
I mean, that was like
Yeah.
the D5 was like wrecking USAC for so long, and the Zero came in and just challenged them, and that was the first time in a long time. Like the next closest thing was maybe the Trio or the Cactus or something, but the Zero came in and put down so much ridiculous usable power. And the other thing was, it was a different dimension.
Right.
So it was like fat. It was like wider, so it was more square. The other ones were longer, so like you had to just deal with it. But you could actually get it in the spare tire well this way or that way, or move it around or whatever. But yeah,
and it had dual inputs,
and they looked amazing.
And, yeah, that's right, and had dual inputs,
and it looked amazing,
and it was beautiful. Yeah,
I mean, like I said, nobody thought about aesthetics before that. You know, it's just
I'm being retarded here. It didn't have the tri strapping. Was that the 7? The 07 that had that, where you could control 3 amps with one?
Actually, some of the series had it as well.
Which one? Oh, the 05s or the 07s?
Yes, 05s had it as well.
Because that was the first time I'd ever seen that. I mean, it wasn't like strappable, quote unquote strappable, where it was the whole thing, but you could control all 3 amps.
Yeah,
with,
like
with
you didn't have to match them. Like you didn't have to.
No,
match. No,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
You could link 3.
It's more like a daisy chain feature.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was super convenient because, especially in the classes that USAC had at the time, like 0 to 1800, that the real Steve Meade ran. He, you could do 3 at the same time.
He's not the real Steve Meade. Sorry to burst your bubble.
Which
sorry.
one?
Sorry.
The loudest Steve Meade. The louder Steve Meade.
Hey, get the real Steve Meade in the lanes, and we'll see.
Bro, I don't know if
don't make him bring back Chickens Escalade.
Wants to play that game with the real Steve.
Don't make him bring back Chickens Escalade. Don't make him do that.
you think Steve is scared
with the RF 15Ks? Get out of here.
I'm not gonna. I won't deny one of them has a larger budget. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he could just.
Fair enough. So basically, you can say the Steve with the larger budget. So basically, people know that that's SMD, and then you have Steve with the smaller budget. That is the loud one.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay, fair enough. That's settled. So large budget and no budget.
That's right. So Steve. And you know who I'm talking about if you're watching this. Jay just said that he will sponsor you with anything you need to beat the other guy that has you blocked.
He won't
so,
yeah, actually, we sent some subs that were supposed to go to Steve SMD Meade. And what actually happened, they showed up at Steve less budget Meade.
I believe it.
You forgot to put the E on the end.
That was only like 5 days ago or something.
I believe it. Oh
so are y'all doing something? Somebody posted in the box. Y'all doing something with Gary Killian also?
Yeah, we're doing something with Gary Killian. So we actually this year it's more or less the culmination of what we've been working on for the last 2 or 3 years. So people might have seen that we're coming out with new baskets for our subs. So we did a lot of new toolings. The same with the Raven amps. We did a lot of new toolings there as well. Gary was a little bit of a surprise. I knew who he was. I knew that he was
a crazy person.
Yeah, he was very much affiliated with a specific brand.
Yeah, he was.
And I met him in Vegas. At the SEMA last year. So we went out and we had a lunch or breakfast at some very fancy hotel. I don't remember which one, doesn't matter. And I met him and his wife, and awesome people. We were just talking, and we didn't really talk that much about car audio. We talked about food and how great the lunch was, because he's a chef and stuff. So we had a great time just hanging out, talking. And Andrew, he knew Andrew Showers, the guy who basically has B2 in the States. He had a pretty decent relationship with Gary, and well, one thing led to another, and all of a sudden he was interested in our gear, and I was excited because Gary Killian, he's a legend.
Right.
He always does some crazy builds that people even know about here in Europe.
Wow.
And when he wanted to be on our team, I was really flattered actually. He's gonna run 12 Ravens and 12 of our Rampage XMs.
That's so stupid.
It is
I think I've
beyond
seen a picture of
what
it.
most people would ever have put in a car.
That's the best way to explain it right there.
He is. He's a crazy
He
person.
just went above.
It's above and beyond because a Raven, even at 2 ohms or whatever, it puts out immense amount of power. And even with whatever rise he will have in that car, it's still a lot of power on a single sub. And remember, he's not just doing this here for burp.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Low hertz too. Just
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what
daily.
he's known for.
Just wrecking shop.
So that's going to be an interesting build. But as I said previously, we've been working last couple of years and doing new toolings, bringing out new items. And I think it's the right time to basically get a lot of these big guys like Kendrick as well in there, because we'll be able to portray a lot of the new stuff that we have that we've been working on. And if people actually knew how much those toolings cost, I'm not sure how many people would actually be left in car audio then.
Yeah, we actually talked a bit about that with with Jacob a few episodes ago, and actually, I mean, I wasn't so surprised because I've had a little experience in it, but it is crazy how much those how much toolings cost, and
Sure.
especially ground up type stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Like people don't understand. You see these memes on Facebook all the time, and I just saw one today actually. It was like a lawn cutting service. The truck was $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, and the trailer was this much, and the lawnmower, blah blah blah, and the caption was, "You can't cut my grass for $20." You know what I mean? And then, you think about it on the car audio side, and it's like, what do you mean you can't sell me a sub for $92? The tooling only costs $9 trillion.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody thinks they're entitled to some kind of made-up competitor pricing,
Yeah. But then the problem is they bitch at you when it's cookie cutter bullshit.
Right.
But they don't want to pay for it when it's unique or R&D or something different, or they had to pay for tooling, or it's you know what I mean? Like, you have to pick a middle ground here. You got to pick a middle ground.
Car audio it's not easy. It's probably one of the few areas where people don't really want to pay for anything, where they want to be given stuff because they have a car. And from my point of view, at least anybody who's done a little bit of business school, it doesn't really make much sense, because I don't really walk into a BMW store and saying to them, you know what, I know how to drive a car. If you just give me one of your cars, I'll put on a sticker saying that I'm the greatest driver.
Right.
And great price. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't work with that dealership.
No, the return on investment these days versus back in the day, quote unquote,
Sure, 10 years ago it was different. When we started, actually we started more than 10 years ago, but it was very much different because people couldn't just go online and talk to whomever guy in Asia and say, make me subs or put logo here or whatever it is. Now it's very easy, and it's very easy to take advantage of other people's toolings. Look at what happened after Jacob introduced Mega Roll surrounds. All of a sudden, everybody had them. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't that happy for paying for that tooling and having everyone.
No.
He did a service to the community. He was happy, probably.
I mean, it's funny. It kills me that those Mega Rolls get so much shit online, like with the memes and the trash cans around.
That one was pretty funny though. The trash can one.
I mean,
it looked just like it. It looked just like it.
It looks exactly.
It makes me laugh every time I see it. I'm sorry, Jacob. I'm sorry, Jacob.
Sorry, Jacob.
Send me one.
But it goes back to it goes back to people don't understand the sound quality portion of things, because the surround is a big source of distortion in woofers, and the linearity of them. So
Sure.
everybody puts some big roll surrounds on their shit. And it's also why people thought they didn't, quote unquote, hit the high notes or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, we're not talking about high roll surrounds.
Nah, anyways, well, we do medium roll surrounds. We don't have that big surrounds, and we chose to basically go a little different, trying to compensate with more cone area and less stroke. Again, this is also because we are from Europe. We don't have the ability to have a sub that's basically 3 foot deep in our cars.
Yeah.
So we try to find efficiency. So we go with a surround that's maybe not as tall, but we have more cone area, so we can basically compensate for having a shorter stroke, but more or less get the same SPL with the same amount of power to it. So a little different philosophy, but it will be comparable.
I want to hear the big one, the new one, but I gotta say, the last time I heard something so oversized, and I'm not gonna put them out there, but it was not good. It wasn't great, because it took so much coil and so much power to get the thing moving that it was on fire by the time it was making any noise. So yeah. I just didn't see the appeal. It was just it was a party trick,
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that yours isn't like that, judging, by what I know about you, and that it's not going to be that way. I understand that the less stroke, more cone area thing, because it's all about displacement. If anybody watching understands displacement, it's about cone area versus stroke. You can get more or less, give up one or the other. You get a bigger cone, it doesn't have to move as far, versus a cone this big, it's got to move this far. So I like the larger cone area thing, as long as you can make it work and not have to, and keep it similarly efficient as the other method. Because obviously the other way is a smaller box, right? You get a smaller box for more stroke, less cone.
Now, when we made the 33s, actually, we've had the parts for making a 33 for probably 4 years. So we've had the parts, but didn't really want to get into it because everything had to be hand built, and we didn't really have a motor that we figured would be efficient enough, because we had a ferrite motor on it first. And when I saw the parameters after building the first one, I was like, I'm not putting this here sub out there on the market with this here motor, because it wasn't something I would be proud of. So again, we said, okay, what can we do to basically optimize what we already have? So we made it a Neo instead. And it was a very, very costly Neo, because those bars that you actually see on the 6-inch X-to-6 there, they're solid Neo bars, N52 Neo bars. It's not like those small discs that hide something that looks like toilet paper rolls that you might have 2 layers of Neo in there. Yeah, maybe graded N35 or whatever it might be. So no, those Neo slugs, they are solid slugs, and we even had to open a tooling because those slugs were so large. So the manufacturer didn't even have it. Again, another cost. But we pulled the parameters, and actually, on top of my head, I think the 33 has a sensitivity. It's a dual 1-ohm coil though. But still, it has a sensitivity of around about 98, 99 dB, which isn't bad considering what type of sub it has, because the MMS is like
1,000 pounds.
More or less. Exactly.
Yeah, for the sake of this show, it's 1,000 pounds.
Exactly, it's a lot. Yeah. Probably like 4 or 5 oversized whoppers or something.
Yeah, craziness, craziness. So,
So it's supposed to be a sub that can actually play music, not just be like a party trick.
yeah. Well, the one I heard was a party trick, and I'm not gonna put anybody out there, but
No.
not impressed. I was not impressed. What? So what do you got coming? What do you got coming? What's new?
We introduced a whole new lineup actually because people said that we have too many sublines, or it's kind of hard to figure out what is what and which level is this and that. So
I kind of had to agree with him.
I literally said that to Taylor today.
Yeah.
Going through when I went on your website, I'm like, man, look, it was just.
Why is there so much shit?
Give me two options, like you had in the beginning. You said.
Yeah.
Loud and SQ.
So we went back to the drawing board, and unfortunately, it's also me sitting doing the website, so I'm very limited on time. But we said that okay, let's do 3 levels. Where we have the first level is called the Riots, next level is called the Rage, and then in between we have Rage XL, and then we have the Rampage. So it's basically 3 degrees of people going crazy. So basically, you start out with a Rage and you end with a Rampage, because then it's easier for us to basically categorize what amp fits with what and what sub fits with what. Instead of basically thinking about is it an ISEL or V3 or whatever it might be, it's just like, no, okay, that's a Rage, that is a Rage XL, done deal. So that's what we're trying to do and clean up, so it's easier for people to figure out what is what.
For sure. What are the power levels on those?
Well, the Riot series, that's basically our entry level series, which isn't actually entry level compared to anyone else. It's because we start out with a 3-inch coil, conservatively rated, but it's 750 watts. We have them in 10, 12, and 15. A lot of other people that do entry level, they do maybe 2.5-inch coils. So we do dual ohm coils, true copper wire, and 3-inch coils. So it's not a cheap sub. But if you're looking at what you're getting and comparing it to other 3-inch coil subs, it's decent. Going upwards, we have the Rage, which basically is also a 3-inch coil, 1200 watt rating. It has basically the new tool baskets, and of course cones, and of course spider rings, and a lot of other stuff that's been tooled specifically to fit for this. Rage XL is basically taking it a step above. Most people have seen a few pictures of those, and still a 3-inch coil, but a motor is 11-inch wide.
It's got ass.
It's got a
little ass.
That's one thing B2 has never been.
It's got a booty.
B2 might be better butt. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it
butt.
Might be actually better booty, better butt. Exactly. And that we got the Rampage. I'm probably gonna do some Photoshop pictures tomorrow, and I can post them online so people can see how the Rampage looks like.
You're gonna Photoshop some butt on there? So
Well,
in these Me Too times, I'm not sure if I can actually do such.
Just put it in a G string.
No, I'm just saying, like Photoshop Skip's butt on it.
I'll pose.
Yeah, I'm just saying. He'll put you. He'll send you.
I'll send you something in a little later.
Yeah, do it after the show, because I'm not sure if I want to have white booty in my face right now.
He can't handle it.
Nobody
can't handle it.
Nobody.
I wish I could screen share the picture I have saved on my computer of you dunking naked.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. Apologize.
Bad. No, it was fantastic.
Okay. That is something I didn't really want to hear.
Yeah.
So then you have the
SQ
subs, right?
Yeah, we have the reference series where we're basically going into the SQ. So we chose to basically name all the SQ for reference. It's not like anybody else is doing it, right? But the whole thing about reference is trying to stay as true to the source as possible. So, of course, we add our touches to the product, but the reference is all about SQ. So even though it's built massively and it looks impressive, for instance, the subs, when we say 600 watts, sure, it will take some more, but it wouldn't take the 2400 watts on the
Right.
SQ. So that's, but of course, most SQ guys will never use that amount of power. But if somebody picks it up and is an SPL guy, I would say the reference series is something you need to basically baby and tolerate.
No, the SQ guys, they put 2K on their front stage and 500 watts on their subs. It's backwards. It's exactly backwards of what the SPL.
There
guys
you go.
I see SPL guys. They have like, 4 TFEs and then one 150.4 on the fronts. That's just
that was actually funny though, because when I came to the States to some of these shows in Heatwave, I was like, oh, amazing sub stage, but I was like, so where's the highs and mids?
Hey, don't be bringing that Brazilian stuff around here, cuz.
No, I don't need Brazilian stuff. I'm just saying it would be nice, so you could actually figure out what track you're listening to instead of just like.
Actually, I'm cool. Me personally, I'm cool with like a 10-second intro, so I know what song I'm listening to, and then
so
just.
that's how you do it. I don't need it. I love bass. Don't get me wrong. I love highs and mids too as well.
I love mids and highs. I love the Brazil stuff, man. That's cool, man. To me,
no,
like,
it is. It's awesome.
It sounds decent. Like, I mean, if you're right next to it, you're gonna die.
Well, from like a mile away.
Yeah,
it sounds awesome.
That's what's cool. That takes crazy skill too, man, to do that.
I went to Brazil actually, and I heard a lot of these big trucks. The problem I see with the Brazilian stuff is this your whole competition thing that they're calling pancadão. It's like 70 hertz and upwards. So sure, it kicks in your chest.
Yeah, you feel it.
So it's not any low bass, but it really kicks and it hurts.
Yeah.
But I like when you have like a wider sound sound range than that. It doesn't need to go down to 20 hertz, but it's kind of cool where you can actually have lower bass.
Yeah. Chet, you ever seen that video floating around online where that girl is standing, I don't know, 100 feet back from the trailer,
it's moving her
and her hair is just boom, 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 boom. That is so awesome. Shout out to our boy.
It's amazing though, but on the other hand, it is tons of power, and again, when you have 140 subs in something that's like the size of a huge semi truck, and you have like 160K to it, it's bound to make some kind of sound wave.
It's got to do something. It's got to do something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too much.
But it is impressive and it's loud, but it's missing the low end though.
Right.
We have a local guy that is big into it, ate up with it, immensely talented. Kyle Wardell, amazing builder, amazing. It sounds amazing too. It's awesome. Yeah. I 100% appreciate the work that goes into those up town or downtown or
stunt walls,
whatever the hell people call them around the world, whatever. But just not my thing. And
it's going to be your thing.
Please, if you have one, play it responsibly at a show, because I'm likely to murder you if you don't. I'm just saying. This shit is exhausting, man.
I've been to a couple of shows, and it's not the most pleasant thing to listen to for 2 or 3 hours per day.
Straight no. You kidding me?
It's
play a
for a
song
couple
every once in a while.
so, but it just gets so loud, and believe me, I like it loud. But the highs and mids, it's just too much when you actually do it all the time.
I could take a song if they'll play it, but I can't take that club music. That doom 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 doom. Man, that's just them horns just get me, Yeah, it's just like, it's like a ringtone. Get out of here.
Jay, you still making PA speakers? Speaking of quote unquote PA speakers,
I love PA speakers.
You love PA?
Yeah.
Audio.
You still making them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to tell you, my favorite, I'm not even kidding you. I'm not making this up just because you're on. If anybody asks me outside of this particular chat or live stream or whatever, my favorite SQ set I have ever had, and Skip has actually heard it, was your PA8s and some horn-loaded compression drivers
In the
under
truck?
the dash.
The,
Yep, in the Dakota.
Yeah.
Now you got
Sweet.
a bass demo. You got a bass demo, Skip.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
dude, that
I think I
was
got it on
the
video.
most dynamic, the most awesome sounding friggin' car. I don't know what it was. I'm not gonna say it was like the most beautiful. I don't even know. I'm not even gonna talk about it. I'm just telling you that was like my favorite SQ vehicle I've ever had. That shitty ass terrible truck that I hated was your eights and some ports under the dash. It was amazing.
Now we do a lot of pro audio. We've refined it more, so we're using different materials now. So of course we're using flat wound aluminum coils and such. And all of these things are, you might not see. So when you compare one pro audio to the next, people go like, well, it's just the same. And I'm like, yeah, it looks the same, but for pro audio, it's very important that they're efficient and they sound good. It's not just like whatever mid-range speaker or whatever it is. Pro audio, it's hard to do correctly because sure, you can slap something together and you can sell it very cheap and it can sound really bad, but it will get loud.
Really bad. Trust me. I made a poster on this like a couple of years ago about pro audio. You can't just slap a lightweight coil in a strong motor and call it PA. It's not how it works.
It doesn't work that way.
No, I mean it's called PA, professional audio. It's supposed to be really great stuff. And I also make the point that one of the best, like recognized across the board as one of the best cars ever, was all pro audio sound quality. One of the best sound quality cars of all time, 100% pro audio gear. And it can sound good if you are using the right pro audio. Stop using bullshit garbage, please.
But that's the thing, they look at the speaker and they say, hey, this here's an 8-inch or a 10-inch, and I can purchase this for $25 per speaker. Why should I pay $75 for this one here when it looks exactly the same? And again, of course, making subs, it's not rocket science. But on the other hand, it is different.
It is rocket science, man.
Yeah, sure.
It is. To most people, it is.
Yeah. Well, for people who actually know what they're doing, it's not much of a rocket science, but that's because they have experience. But for these new guys starting out, that basically just call whomever, wherever, and just says, well, I need this, put a logo on it. Well, of course, you can sell cheap because it's not really developed or engineered. And again, it's very easy to get something loud.
It has been developed or engineered. It just has been developed or engineered by someone else. And that's right? That the R&D has already been paid for by someone else, by the initial consumers that paid for the thing. And then now you're able to sell it for cheaper later.
True.
But you, the innovators, you and along with your ilk that are innovating things and trying to make the market better and give us louder, more powerful, better sounding, bits and pieces. You're the ones who bear the brunt.
Well, that's also why we basically don't stay at the same series all the time. Like back in the days, you could have like a sub that would probably last 10 years because there was no point in changing it. Now, unfortunately, to be able to basically catch up with the game or to stay popular, we need to do revisions all the time, which is a costly process, and it is also kind of confusing for the end user because we need to think about those as well. They have gear that should have some kind of resales value. They use their hard-earned money to purchase something, and if you come out with something new, every third month or something, it's like, what am I going to do with this old stuff? Nobody wants to buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
absolutely. And that's something you should think about as well. You have to think about the end user, and of course, for us, it's costly to just revise all the time. On the other hand, you need to do something to keep your product fresh and interesting.
So fresh and so clean with the white, except we went to red.
Yeah, and we're still doing white and a little bit of black as well.
Hey, I like it. I love all that.
They don't discriminate.
You guys see RP Patel in the chat there? Oh,
yeah, RP, he's doing a lot of Ravens.
Dude,
So.
RP, them boys at Soundcheck are crazy. They're crazy. They're out of their brains.
They literally just surf eBay looking for like crazy stuff to mess with.
Hey, that's Hank, man. He does his stuff the way he does his stuff.
I love them boys. I love them. I want to kiss them all in the mouth.
Because he does stuff that could have killed everyone else, but he takes that risk. So if shit happens, we can just blame Hank.
Let's all blame. That's all we do all the time. Anyway, Hank is a joke from way back.
Yeah.
Way back.
Yeah.
From like
Hank is funny though because he's been trolling our brand for ages, and for people not really knowing who he is, it can sound harsh and stuff. But you got to take Facebook for what it is. It is a social media, and you can't basically believe in everything that's online. No, especially on Facebook.
And all 7 people that are watching this right now are gonna know what I'm talking about right here. But Hank has stayed at my house. I've had him for dinner, and he's a good guy. He's just a nice guy.
He unfriended me. I don't know what I did.
What? Hank,
I'll tell you what you did.
Maybe I'm a better troll.
You slam dunked naked.
Yeah. I would have unfriended me too. I think I'm a better troll.
And he has kids, so of course his kids can't basically see that he's friends with somebody who slam dunks naked. I totally understand.
I think that's what happened.
I've got to. I'm like looking on my phone right now. I gotta find this picture.
It's on Facebook still. I haven't got.
It is on Facebook.
I haven't got reported.
Facebook.
I haven't got reported yet, so
it's on my Facebook.
But talking about birds, actually, we got something new here. We got something called the swan.
The what?
The swamp?
The swan.
Oh, the swan.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, the swan.
Ooh.
And that's actually a white amp.
Uh-oh, here we go. Right? Why not a black swan? What the hell?
Oh.
Well, you never know. It might come. You never know. You never know. So we did something called the Swan, which is probably the largest 2-channel that's out there right now. It is a full range amp, but you can also use it for bass. So basically, it's in the same heatsink as the Raven. It has quad inputs, but it does 2 by 6.5K at 1 ohm.
I need that immediately.
Full range.
I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. I need it.
Pro audio.
Yeah, you can use it for pro audio, but that's the thing. We decided to actually not just make it a pro audio amp. We decided to basically upgrade the capacitor section and make it a stronger power supply, and also be able to make it sound better than some of the other full range amplifiers. So you can use this here on amps as well. You don't need to basically have a specific bass line or whatever it is. This year we'll do full range. It will do bass as well. And considering it's a 2-channel, you can have an awesome setup like some of the old school setups where you had maybe 8 subs per channel. So imagine here you got like 750 watt subs and you want to have 16 of those on a single amp. Mm-hmm. Use the Swan, for instance. Instead of having multiple smaller amps.
Right. That's what it looks like everybody's going towards now. No, I mean, back in the day it was, because I guess that's the biggest amps you could get was smaller ones. So you had to have. I mean, people was okay with running 10 1,000 watts.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's like the bigger ones are coming out. I mean, I guess not a lot of people doing the bigger ones, but the ones that are, they're doing them well.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just it's going to take over now instead of having to worry about so many RCA inputs or tracking
down. And also the fact is, it's also the resales value, as I said earlier, because here in Denmark, actually I'm in Norway now, but at least there's the proverb saying that buying too cheap can be costly. Well, the thing is, actually, once you buy something reasonable or very cheap, you don't really have much expectations out of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure neither do anyone else. So once you actually want to sell something that you purchased by cheap,
right,
nobody wants to purchase it because it's easier for them to just purchase it new.
Right, right.
So say you're purchasing something that was maybe $300. Who would pay $250 for it? Just go out
Right.
and buy it from new instead.
Right, right.
Purchase something that's $1,000 and you can sell it for, or you can pick it up for 500. People go like, hey, yeah, I'll buy this for 500. But if it's 300 versus 150, people go like, nah, you know what? I'll just buy it from a dealer and I'll get the warranty and everything that comes with it.
Right.
So that's also what people got to think about. You know, some products might be slightly costlier, but you know they also have a resales value.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you said you knew who Gary Killian was. Is there any other, people in America that y'all know about in Europe that are like, you not follow them, but their name has spread to Europe? You know what I mean, like in audio.
Yeah.
Like,
There are a few people like T Fade. He's known.
He's a nobody. He's a nobody.
Exactly. Who's T Fade?
Right,
Exactly.
right. Nobody knows.
I can't tell if you're serious or not.
I'm 100% serious.
Now, there are a few heavy hitters over there because people follow these big builds that are being made. So, of course, a lot of the bass heads doing low hertz, for instance, the guys in Texas, Justin Phillips, bass head Jesus.
Hey, shout out IJWB.
Exactly. Yeah, even Mike DiGaudio, he has a presence here in Europe as well.
Wow.
Although he's not like the bass head, but people tend to follow the guys who are popular and doing legit things. So it's not like we don't know. Of course, not everyone has the same interest or the same following. But same with Joe Price. He is people know him, and Jonathan Price as well. You know, he's also a big social media activist, so people know him. And to make this year's story even funnier, though, even a guy called Jason DeClue, he's known here in Europe.
Stop it!
Yes.
Stop! Quick.
Yes.
Stop!
Yes.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that people know him here in Europe.
Stop it. They do not.
That makes me sad.
They do not.
That makes me sad.
Know the clue in Europe.
Yeah, they
Stop
do.
It.
No, they don't know him. They know who he is.
They know
God!
They know the phrase "get declued."
You have no clue.
Yeah, get declued.
Yeah,
Munch
exactly.
loud I am.
Loud,
Munch loud, exactly.
That is
munch loud.
actually that the first time I heard. I'm not even gonna get started on that, but it was something about writing on a B2 banner, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. He wrote some stuff about another car audio company where he was calling them out, talking a lot of shit and such.
I think it was the first time I even heard of him, but yeah.
So
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He did something that was kind of interesting. He called out another company that has been a little bit inspired or whatever it could have been. And we publicly went out and basically said that this year is nothing that we stand by as a company because we try not to bash others. If you're, of course, called out in what you could call a battle, of course, you need to defend yourself.
Yeah.
What he did there was nothing that we would have done.
You know what? I remember that, and I appreciated the response from you and your people, whatever, about it, because it was like, it was something you want to see, even from the most diehard fan of this company or the most anti of that company. It's like, all right. When in a previous episode, Skip was saying that another company, had never had any like major scandals.
I was thinking of that today. Driving.
Were you? Yeah, because
exactly
B2 has never had one of those.
Uh-huh.
I have. I mean, you've been around a while, dude. You've had a lot of products out there. You have had a lot of people beating the snot out of your products, and I have never heard. You'd be hard pressed to find someone to say something negative about B2.
Anything.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Of course, there are always people that have a specific love for a specific brand. And of course, sometimes people, they just want to shit talk because it is what they do. Because they might have not gotten the specific price they wanted, or maybe the amp shipped out late, or the sub blew up because you fed it with 10 kilowatts or whatever, and then they start shit talking a brand. I usually say a product is only as good as the people who stand behind the brand. And I believe, you know, once you have a failure in a product, then you figure out how great the brand is. Because would you warrant it? How do you take care of all that stuff? A lot of car audio companies nowadays, they sell with like maybe 5 or 10% margin, which is great for getting a lot of sales. But once they have a failure in an app or any other product, it's like, oh shit, we got to sell 5 subs or 5 amps to be able to cover this warranty. And then all of a sudden you have a scandal that basically means that nobody's getting their stuff warranted. And that's also why people have to think that you need to have some kind of overhead so you can protect your customers and take care of them when shit happens. And of course, you need to have overhead so you can pay your taxes as well.
Yeah,
but nowadays, when you can just go online and basically say that please start my brand with 10 pieces samples, a lot of kids, you know, they don't really figure out that, you know, you have warehouse costs, you have the cost of taking care of your customers as well if something happens, because most likely something will happen, but it's just how do you deal with it? That's the most important thing. If you have some shit that happens, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know many people that can speak ill will of V2.
Yeah, I was just thinking it.
Speaking of drama and speaking of ill will, y'all have a Lithium, don't you?
Yeah, we have a Lithium. We did one back in 2016, I believe. We actually have 2 because now we have a smaller model called the Slip 20. But we started out with the Slip 40. I think it was 2016. Yeah, I think it was 2016. We had it all done. Again,
so this ain't no brand new shit.
No, it took us 1 year to actually get it done because our Lithium, it came with a completed case, and we had all the documents that we needed to be able to ship them because we were able to ship ours by air.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, because we had to go ahead with the manufacturing factory there and get all the certificates and do all the tests and such to be able to get this here battery into Europe.
Yeah.
We weren't able to just take cells and assemble them.
Right. I remember.
I wish we could have done that because that would have made me.
I can imagine.
I do that because of our laws.
I get a lot of questions about lithium, and I remember telling people, you know, as far back as, quote unquote, as far back as 2016, that you guys had the most finished product out there, and it's a shame I don't see them more often.
No, it's kind of hard, you know, because lithium. Everybody got into it with very little knowledge and very little skill. We wanted to do a lithium so it was actually a finished product that you could just more or less dump underneath your hood, connect it, and it was safe. You know, it doesn't matter if you turn it upside down or left or right. It was a finished product. And that took a lot of testing, whereas a lot of people just like, well, let me just get some cells and screw it together.
Can you tell us a little bit more about it? I mean, everybody these days is a lithium expert because everyone has eBay, and they can all order used A123 cells and scratch them up and you know, bust them up. Can you tell us a little bit more, like, about it, like specifically?
Sure. The Slip 40 and also the Slip 20 that we're doing, it uses the standard 18650 cells. But what we chose to do, we chose to have a BMS built in, whereas a lot of other people, the battery management system, whereas a lot of the early lithiums, they were just cells that weren't really balanced. It was just whatever you had.
An active BMS?
Yes, an active BMS. It has on the Slip 20. It has an active BMS on the Slip 40 because it had to take that much current because it had the capacity of having 500 amps of current. So we tried to do it with an active BMS. What actually became a problem was the circuit board inside for the active BMS. It couldn't handle that amount of power.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, and that's what people don't really understand, because when they say that, well, you know, it can handle that much power and such and so forth, people don't understand that basically the PCB that you have inside of a battery, it's like not like inside the real battery, not just the cells, but inside the battery casing. It's like the size of half of an iPhone or something. It's a small PCB, and having 500 amps going through that PCB, even if it's only for a split second, it's not something that you would really like to do.
Yeah, right.
And it basically had us redesign the battery because we had to take out the active BMS and just leave the cell balancing in there, and of course the short circuit protection there. So that's what we did back then, and it worked. A lot of people have had great joy of them. We even had a guy in the UK. He crashed his car with the batteries in there, and no damages or so forth. Actually, no explosions or whatever. It cracked the case a little bit because it was in the trunk. So he opened up the battery, and he showed that, hey, this is how the guts looks inside. And we got a little smack of it from some people, whereas a lot of other people were like, oh, it looks beautiful, because for the smaller PCBs and the balancers, they're all attached with several, I think it's 14 gauge wires. And people are like, oh, why isn't it big bus bars and so forth and so on? And we're like, well, how do you actually connect big bus bars to a small PCB? It's not really going to happen. It's impossible. You can't solder a big bus bar onto the PCB, so you need some sort of wires. And as we tried to basically explain to the customers and the end users is, well, the distance that this here is traveling, it's less than 6 inches or so forth. And if you have 8 of those wires traveling a distance of 6 inches, it can still take a lot of amperage.
1,000 amps, right? Yeah,
exactly. But people they just want to see big bus bars.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is so much better. I'm like, yeah, sure, it might look much better, but you don't have the active balancing. You don't have a lot of these features that would make your lithium better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in the beginning, of course, because in the beginning there was a lot of people doing lithium that shouldn't do lithium.
In the beginning,
they're still out there. They're still out there.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to be diplomatic.
They have lithium batteries that just blow up on their own, just in a wreck, just sitting there.
That's what they do.
It's on fire again.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because we also have our laws here in Europe, and we could never just sell cells as a ready-made product, because there will be like some kind of fire hazard law or whatever it was, and the claims that could come from that will ruin our company. Right. I wouldn't even dare doing it. Right. So that's why we came with a finished product that we could actually say that, okay, if something happens, we know that it's covered because it's been tested and it is certified.
Oh, certifications.
Oh, yes.
Imagine that.
But
wow. Even with the Slip 20 that we're doing now, we had it sent to an independent third-party lab in the state where they tested it to basically see what performance it does, instead of us just putting something together and just putting on the website saying, yeah, it does 500 amps or 1,000 amps. So, and that's basically what we do with most of our stuff. If it's batteries or amplifiers or whatever it is, we test stuff prior to releasing it. And there's never been a single time where we've had a product that has come great from the get-go, because sure, you can design something and you can acquire the build house to basically tell them to do so and so forth, but you can always do something better, because the build house, they have their mind of thinking and you have your way of thinking.
It's just crazy that you have to specify that we test everything before we send it out there. Like that's something that shouldn't, like, I mean, they're out there that nobody does that, but it's just, I feel like once we start getting into the companies that we're trying to have guests of, you're gonna see they're gonna separate themselves from the the fly-by-night ones that are gonna close up shop.
Probably want to buy from the people we're having on as guests.
Right. I mean, there's
a lot of new companies coming out, and some of them are probably very good, and some of them I don't even know of, because I can't keep track of companies that are coming out almost every month. But I know as a consumer, I would preferably go out buying a Samsung TV than I would going out buying some no-name brand that just popped off the last month, saying it's even better, but just at a lot
Well,
cheaper
with
price.
a TV, right? You can put it on your wall, and if you pay X amount of dollars and you get X amount of years out of it, you're like,
Yeah.
well, I got the same dollar per return as I would have paying X amount for a Samsung and getting, X in out of that TV.
It's still the same picture.
Yeah, but well, that's debatable. But my point is,
that's what they're gonna say in audio. I still hear the same. Some people's
my
ears
point
just
is,
aren't.
especially with lithium batteries. I mean, you're talking about burning some shit down.
Mm.
I got a chance. And I have seen amps catch fire. I've seen batteries go ballistic. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff happen in my car, other people's cars, and it's not install error. It's not user error. Bad stuff happens, and people need to be safe out there, man.
Sure.
People need to be safe out there.
You don't want any car fires because you cheapened on something that seemed to be very clever because it's supposedly the same as something else. I would say for anything, any car audio, I usually say start with the battery. Don't cheapen in on the battery. Rather purchase an amp that's only 1,000 watts and get a better battery instead of basically going with a 5K amp and feeding it off insufficient battery system.
Who do you like for batteries?
Anything that's actually solid. I would go actually when it comes to a battery. Of course.
Who do y'all use over there in Europe?
Do they use caps over there also?
Not so much. We're looking a little bit into caps. There are a few people running caps, but not that many yet. But there are more and more people looking into it. But some of the bigger sellers of batteries here are Odyssey. Those are rather large, and of course you have guys running Kinetic. But most people will probably prefer Odyssey over Kinetic.
That's funny because Odyssey's American.
It is.
Are there nobody can get y'all's any other batteries over there? That's strange.
Sure, we can get Vartar and Bosch and all these European companies, but it's just they make their specific AGM batteries to. Well, they're not car audio related, so they're not that high capacity. And that's why most of the batteries that are used for car audio are excess power and what do you call the Odyssey. We haven't had a chance to get much of the full throttle yet, but I've heard that they're coming to the market as well. But it's bigger household names that are basically here in Europe in terms of batteries. Besides that, of course, it's more those who basically search eBay and try this and try that, but for the big household names, it's more or less the same as you have in the States.
I'm surprised that there's not more caps over there because you guys are 8 slap up with DB Drag, and DB Drag is all about getting the most out of.
That's the problem. They're too costly.
So, but caps seems like it would fit DB Drag perfectly.
Sure.
Unless it's not in the rules. I don't know. I haven't read DB Drag.
We're working on something though, so that's another thing that's in the pipeline. Besides, white amps called Swans and a lot of new subs and such.
You say ghosts?
But we're working on some caps. We're having them tested in the States, and we'll see how it goes. Because again, we don't just want to order something and just put the name on it.
Sure.
We need to have this here tested thoroughly by people who are actually in the game and know how a cap should actually
for sure.
perform.
No, I hear you. That's your MO. I love that about you.
Now we're looking into caps to offer something for our European customers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they could definitely utilize it. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel / where are you at on full bridge amplifiers?
Actually, we have a full bridge already.
I know.
We have something called the MA 6000, which is a full bridge, and that leads me back to Swan as well, because that's actually also a full bridge, but a 2-channel. If I'm supposed to compare directly to some of the Brazilian brands, they put out a lot of power. That's true. I've seen some of the build houses in Brazil, and I wasn't always impressed with what I've seen. I'm a bit torn because the way we did our full bridges, we did them more on a traditional layout, so you can't actually tell if it's a typical Korean design or if it's a full bridge design. Because we said that if we're going to do our full bridge amps, we need them to have strong power supply section, need them to have a strong audio section, and it also needs to be a signal that actually doesn't sound like crap.
Yeah.
So we're not into a lot of power and having it distorted by 15% and go like, oh well, we can do 15K off of a 100 amp fuse. So from my point of view, some of the Brazilian brands out there, they're doing good stuff. They are innovative because they're bringing something that most people haven't really thought of for that long. What I don't really like is that a lot of the amps, they're not as flexible. Sure, that they can play full range, but then some of them need to have bass series because the capacitor section is not large enough for having that transient response. From my point of view, I'm like, well, it's an amplifier. You know, it should be able to at least be a bass amplifier, or it can be a full range, fair enough. But for all these 5K amps and upwards, nobody really uses them for tweeters and mids. Most of those amps are used for bass.
Right.
And I'd say I would probably go with a different manufacturing technique than full bridge as it is today. Because they're not as stable, and people don't understand why, but it is because the amplifier is already bridged internally. So when people go like, well, I'm gonna run it in 1 ohm, it's like, yeah, which basically means you're actually running the amp at 0.5 already.
Right. I try to make that analogy all the time, and people don't get it.
I didn't know
No, and that's of course also why they are less stable. You know, it's you want to treat it like a typical Class D design that is Korean, that basically is, well, 1 ohm means 1 ohm. But doing it on a full bridge, amp is bridged internally, and then you want to push it even further. And I'm not saying it's a fire hazard.
Just don't do it. Just don't.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a fire hazard, but a lot of the Brazilian amps, they have gotten pretty hot because of abuse. It's not because it's a bad design. It's a different design that they do their way. I prefer an amp that has a cleaner output section, that has more capacitance for basically those huge current draws instead of just tons of power.
Yeah, but if you rate an amp at 1 ohm and you run it at 1 ohm, it should not pop.
Correct.
Okay.
But some of those do.
Resistive, reactive, it doesn't matter. I put it on 1 ohm, it should not pop.
No, so. I agree. But then again, you also have to look at the history of where some of these amps are coming from, because in Brazil they're using them for this year pancadão that we spoke about earlier, which is 70 hertz and up. And
well, that's the other thing. That's the other
exactly.
thing. Give me some frequency response, dude. If you're gonna give me a 15K, I mean, that's gonna be on my subs, dude.
It only does it on 100 hertz.
Yeah, I don't have a semi full of friggin' PA speakers.
No, and that's what people don't really understand, because sure, the impedance rise on a PA speaker that can handle 300 watts, once you basically feed that some power, voice call is going to get very hot, and basically it's not going to be 1 ohm that you're seeing. You might be seeing 8 ohms or whatever, and 8 ohms and 70 hertz basically with a 0.1 inch excursion is not a problem for almost any amp. But try the same with a 4-inch voice coil at 20 hertz, huge excursion with less impedance rise. That particular amp that was able to produce 15K at 1 ohm might not be as happy because it's not built for that purpose.
That's right.
but it's cheap and it's a lot of power because you can make such amps way cheaper because they're internally bridged. You don't need to have the same amount of components. So if you open some of the full bridge amps, you look inside, you go, okay, so where's the rest of the components?
Well, it's voltage versus current, right? Voltage is cheap. Voltage is cheap.
Voltage is very cheap.
That's right. Skip just tested. That's right. He just tested what do you have? A 15K?
No, a TAR amps MD. Oh, well, I shouldn't have said the brand, but
MD8. It doesn't matter.
MD8000. It wasn't a bad. I didn't say that bad.
So anyway, he rose to 10 or 12 ohms and he got 2300 watts. He's like, dude, is this normal? I'm like, yeah. It was
165 volts too.
I went all Dwayne Johnson on this is Brazil. Oh wait, no, that was
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel. This is Brazil. Anyway, that's how we do it, right? That's how we do. A ton of output voltage.
Yeah, that's crazy. That scared me. I thought something was wrong.
No,
and
it's fantastic because
it was like 15 amps.
In general, voltage is preferable to current.
Right.
In general.
For the sub.
But you know, the components can only handle so much voltage. So, I mean, obviously, Jay can tell us more about that, but, you know, obviously, he's not going to give us some subpar. Mm-hmm. And I would trust anything that he puts out, but there's some other stuff out there that, I don't know, suspect. Sus.
I usually say, you know, if people are in doubt, then look at what's already a fact. You can't mess around with Ohm's law, and basically that's what I just say. You know, do your calculation, look at whatever you were taught in school, look at Ohm's law, and once you basically see that something is too good to be true, you know, you go like, yeah, sure, I'm getting 37K out of a 500 amp or 1000 amp fuse. You go like, yeah, well,
right, that's not happening.
No.
So basically, J Holm and B2 and Better Bass owns the SPL. They also own the SQ world. They have full bridge, they have half bridge, they have they got everything covered. They're coming out with caps. They had batteries, they got lithium. Y'all not doing Deadner anymore.
No, we do Deadner now. We did Deadner now.
Are you still doing Deadner?
Yeah, we're doing a stealth Deadner. So basically, it's all black, and you have a logo that you can barely see.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. What do you got?
No,
what is it? 80
mil? To do black is it's easier to install and you know, easier to install in terms of appearance. Right. So you don't really do your job as well. You can't really see that shiny piece of metal behind the door panel. So we wanted to do a little difference. We did black Deadner. We got wire again, and we got RCA again. So we're back almost where we started 10 years ago.
Bruh, you're killing me. You're killing me.
You're thinking about aesthetics again, even with Deadner.
Kill me. I hate this guy.
That's awesome.
I hate this guy. No one thinks about aesthetics for anything.
What? Why? You don't see the basket.
You're rocking style.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Squared. I love it. I love it. So, look, we got to... do you have the chat up?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's only one guy talking, though. There's 13 people in there.
I know. It's like Jake. Actually, Taylor...
Yeah.
The other Taylor is up in here.
Taylor Pro.
Taylor Pro. He's all up in here. Jake.
Oh, no. RP.
Joe Aiken was number one. Will...
Basically, it's like who wants to ask me a question?
Trying to troll Jay, and I'm not going to allow him.
Yeah.
Well, we can come with some horror stories about what happened in car audio, but I'm not sure if
I'm trying to figure out who's going to get some swag in here.
RP Patel.
RP Patel does not deserve. He doesn't get in it. He don't get shit.
He already gets it, though.
Actually, he's on Team Flip Flop.
Uh-oh. Flip Flop? Is that the people who get beat with flip flops when they get taken off?
No, basically it's like, because he said brown people don't wear flip flops, so I'm like Team Flip Flop.
I never wear
brown people don't wear flip flops.
I think it's an internal joke because Hank he was wearing flip flops all the time. And Patel is like, nah, man, I don't wear flip flops. Brown don't go down with flip flops.
I'm not sure what kind of brown he's talking about.
I don't know, but hey, I agree. I don't wear flip flops either.
I don't blame
me
you.
neither.
Flip flops are lame.
No, that's not for. It's not for a man to wear. It's just not. I'm sorry.
Look, we're gonna go back, Jay. We're gonna go back. Unless you want to pick somebody out of the chat, the 7 people in the chat.
There's a bunch of people texting. Not they're listening, but they're not.
Look,
texting
we're gonna go back. We're gonna pick somebody for some B2 swag that Jay has been so generous in donating.
If people want to ask some questions, go ahead, type them up. Whatever.
Here we go.
Even the drama question
right now. Let it fly. Actually, I'm gonna bring one back.
Yeah, there was one. There was one. You talking about?
I'm gonna bring one back from the dead, Jay, because while anybody else thinks about it, and ask why you use quote unquote. I'm quoting this. They didn't quote that.
Yeah.
Why you use DD's radial design for your Neo sub? Sorry, I didn't mean. I meant to cut the laughter out.
That's all good, man. Actually, when we did the XN back in 2009, people thought it was a DD radial design, but it wasn't because our sub, actually our motor, it was magnetizing the pole, making it more like a traditional design. So the magnets are actually attached to the pole piece.
What?
Yeah, and magnetizing the entire pole piece. And then, of course, the pole piece is attached to all the other parts. So you actually have force in the gap, not just like magnets that just radiates off of the coil. So for people who hasn't actually seen a sub, they just go like, oh, this here's a DD design. Which it actually isn't. It is a specific design that was derived from a company in Norway called SEAS. And SEAS, they are high in SQ stuff, home audio, for instance. So we had a chat with them and asked them if it was okay if we did a modification to their design to use it for subwoofers. And they were all good with it. So we said, okay, let's take this your idea and develop it into car audio and for subwoofers, and that's how our Neo came about. It was only in 2000, I think it was 2014, we did a small run of a radial design Neos. I think we did 10 pieces or so, and that was basically just to offer a Neo that didn't cost as much, and also to basically show people that, hey, this here is a radial and this here is the other. And then people could actually compare. And the funny thing is, the radials that we did, the 10 pieces that we did, they were okay and they would perform, but it's not anything I would ever do again because we didn't start out that way. Yeah. And I would rather do what we've done from the beginning, because our Neo it's our Neo. It's built that way. Of course, it's hard to redesign motors and do this and that. Even the DD, it came from an electromagnet. That is their design. So it's actually from an electromagnet.
That's not DD's design. That was why. Anyway, go ahead.
No, sorry. Actually, their design came from an electromagnet. So it might have been that they got their engineers that are on point. But when we did our Neo, we didn't really want to take DD's design and just put our logo on it. We wanted to do something that we could be proud of ourselves. And whether it's louder or not, that's for the end users to figure out. We've done our tests, and we know it has performance in what we needed to do.
Actually, you know what? I will go ahead and say that's the radial Neo is not DD's. They don't hold the patent. There's actually a patent holder on a radial Neo subwoofer motor, and it is not Digital Designs. I invite you to find out who it is, there, dear viewers.
See, that's how we're gonna pick swag giveaways, stuff like that.
That's right. I tell you what, the first person. Where did they need to reply there, Skip?
Either way,
Add us.
yeah, in the chat or when the video goes live. When the video goes live, published on YouTube for the rewatch, the first comment that answers it right, I don't even know the answer. So
I do.
I might
and
answer
I'm
it
sure
and
Jay
win
does. The very first person to answer correctly, to whom the Radial Neo patent
not right now
belongs.
Not right now, but when it goes live published,
get some B2 audio swag,
stuff we all get.
That's right. I love that.
And Jay, it will be sent from the States, so that's probably much easier.
Any parting thoughts other than
I want a Denmark
your
stamp,
official announcement of sponsoring me with all ref amps and Skip with a bunch of Ravens and whatnot?
Yeah, exactly. No, basically what I would say is that, hey, audio is subjective, man. It's whatever you do, whatever might sound great to you, it's not what might sound great to the other guy. So instead of being nut huggers, be happy with what you got and respect another guy's system, because it's what you love, someone else might hate.
Or what you hate, somebody else might love, right?
Exactly. Try to grow the industry instead of tearing it down. And that's also why a lot of people there are not really doing the large sponsorships anymore, and a lot of the orgs don't really do things because nobody wants to get in there. It's being torn down by the end users, because I'm pretty sure a lot of the manufacturers, they would like to grow the business, but it is hard when there's no end users supporting it. Which then again comes back to, is it profitable or not?
That's right. Well, there's also not a whole lot of loyalty in the business anymore.
Sure.
As far as the sponsorships go.
It's not like the good old days where you can actually affiliate.
No, it's not. It's definitely not.
With a specific brand.
Look, when I see a vehicle at a show and it is like decked out, I get excited, man. I get excited like this manufacturer has done some work. They have either sponsored this person to put in this work, or they have contracted this to put in this work. I get excited, dude, and I don't see nearly enough of it. And I go to some big ass shows. I mean, I can't make every show all the way across the country because Skip won't go with me. But I have been to some big shows, especially World Finals, which I have not missed yet. So you guys put some shit together. Let's see what you got. Let's back to the manufacturer wars, man. I got excited there for a little while when we were having the rating wars in USAC. I got excited. It was like the old days. Let's do this thing.
I love drama. It's
Me
fun.
too.
Yeah.
When you're not involved in it, it's the best ever. Just love it.
Skip, what you got? What you got for Jay, man?
Man,
let's wrap it
like
up.
As much saturation as car audio is right now. I mean, me and Taylor, I started before Taylor, and I'm not as big as Taylor, but there was like 5 or 6 companies that you could use. And now, with as much saturation there is now, it is hard to stand out. And y'all are the few that do. I mean, it's just crazy how, just like you think of, like, I'm gonna bring it back again. You think of aesthetics, like nobody does that. Even with Deadner, that's just unheard of.
Deadner, yeah,
it's
for
just
sure.
Like, Deadner is such an afterthought, and you thought about, if I made it black, it will look good. It's just So I mean,
no, but that's basically the whole thing, and that's probably where some of this your so-called Danish heritage come in, because if people look into Denmark and its history of design and such, it's also that the product should also feel and look good. It adds to it. It has visual value instead of just being loud. And as I said in the beginning, every product that we come out with, it has a little bit of ourselves in it. It has our soul in it. And of course, if something goes bad or if a product is shit, I feel like I didn't really do my job. So I would rather think of, well, how can we make this year a little bit more sexy? How can we do that this year is maybe more appealing to that specific customer? It could be as little as maybe using a different RCA input, or maybe using a thicker sheet of aluminum for the deadener.
It's the little things, man. It's the little things. Yeah, it's
Instead of
attention
going
to
like,
detail.
hey man, if I make the deadener thinner and if I use a cheaper RCA, I'll be making maybe $5 more on an average. And I'm like, I would rather live with $5 less and be sure that every time I see an amp in a car or I see them using my deadener, I go like, we made that, and I'm happy did it that way instead of
That is you think about B2, you think about attention to detail. No kidding. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do. Small details that matters.
All right. Jay, party
Yeah.
thoughts.
Man.
Parting thoughts.
Parting thoughts. Have fun. That's basically what it's all about. Have fun.
That's right.
Do what
Have
you
better
love.
bass.
That's car audio. Have fun and stop the nut hugging, man.
Stop the nut hugging. Wait, unless it's B2.
Clips. That's the highlight reel right there.
Have fun and stop the nut hugging because it's just hurting the industry.
Bingo,
Rather
bango.
love what you do, respect what others have.
Bing.
Right.
Oh my God.
That's huge.
Jay's dropping bombs up in here, bro.
Knowledge.
Skippy, what
Yep.
you got?
Man, we've had 3 guests on so far, and it really is like every like I try to think of myself as like an end consumer. I watched Jacobs, and I just at the end I was like, I love Jacob. I want to run Sundown, and I have the same feeling right now. Like I just it was such a pleasure to talk to you. I mean, it's like talking to, Taylor knows all y'all guys because he met y'all in person, and he texts y'all randomly probably.
That's not true.
And so just to get to know y'all just for a couple hours, I mean, I just feel like I know y'all better, and it's just, if people watch this, they should just want to run your product. Both of y'all, all 3 of y'all we had. It's just, man, it's hard. It's hard to find that. It's hard to find that.
We do have people that actually wants to make a difference, and that's probably why
that was huge.
a lot of the older guys are in here, because we didn't do it for money, we did it for passion.
Right.
And
If I wanted to make a lot of money, I would probably just go sell diapers or children's clothes or something, because that's something that you will be making money off.
Right.
I know now that since I have a son that's 2 years old, so I know who's basically taking my money out of my pockets.
Hand over fist.
And
exactly.
look,
if we were in this for passion.
If you were in it for the money, honestly, it would come through. You know what I mean? Like, it would come through in this interview. It would come through in your products. It would come through in your customer service. And that's why it was a pleasure to have you on. And
the biggest thing, y'all are proud of what y'all put out. It's just, that goes so far. I mean,
it does.
People don't understand that, Everything you put out, you're proud of it, like.
Sure. And even if there's a flaw, well, then we'll have to fix it the best way possible.
Right. Man, it was awesome.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, it was a pleasure to have you on, Jay.
Taking your time out, man.
Skip, as usual.
Eat a Danish from me, dude. Eat a Danish from me.
I'll eat a Danish and I'll get some flæskesvær.
Look, don't stop
Love
saying
it.
that.
Love
Stop
it.
saying that. I'm gonna like literally like airmail you some crackling.
Hog crackling, man.
I'll airmail you some flæskesvær then.
HAWG.
Wait, one time. Say it again.
Flæskesvær.
Fish. All right, I'm gone.
All right.
I'm gone.
I hate
All right,
T-Fade.
peace
Y'all
out.
guys
Later,
take
man.
care.